Today is April 10th, and by special request, it's the English-only article. That's right. So today, your article will be in 100% English, and I know you're going to do a great job. Let's look at our title today, Eisinga's Planetarium, an amateur's mark on history.
Yeah, that sounds super fun. We have some big words in here, but that sounds super fun.
You're exactly right. This is a tough title for the English-only article. Let's take a look at Planetarium. Okay, this is a building with a round roof, and it has the sky painted on it, so you can learn about stars and planets and outer space. An amateur is a person that works like they're not professionals. They didn't go to school to study something. Sometimes it also means someone that isn't really good. But in this story, this amateur is, man, he's awesome. And your mark on history is something we remember you for in the future. So we might think of like Picasso's famous paintings. Picasso did a lot of things in his life, but his mark on history was his art.
Right. So today we're apparently going to talk about a person and his legacy.
That's right. His beautiful, interesting planetarium in the sky. Let's look at our subtitle. Learn about the story behind this amazing planetarium. All right, let's take a quick break. And when we come back, we got paragraph 1.
Eisinga Planetarium, an amateur's mark on history. Nearly 250 years ago, in 1774, scientists predicted that some planets and the moon would appear in the same part of the sky on a night in May. A Dutch preacher claimed that the rare event would lead to the destruction of the Earth. Naturally, this end-of-the-world prediction caused panic among people. Luckily, a 30-year-old woolcomber living in the town of Franeker was there to put everyone at ease. Eisinga, who had spent most of his life engaging in the production of wool, was an amateur lover of mathematics and astronomy. He had studied these subjects as a youth, even though he couldn't attend school. Through self-education, he was able to continue his studies as he got older. To prove that there was no reason for panic, Eisinga decided to build a scale model of the solar system. However, it took him 7 years, from 1774 to 1781, to build the model into the ceiling of his house. Impressed by his work, William I, King of the Netherlands, bought the house and made it a royal planetarium. More than 200 years later, the Eisinga Planetarium still works, making it the oldest functional planetarium in the world. In 2023, it became a UNESCO World Heritage Site, which ensures its proper protection and the continuation of its educational value in the future.
All right, friends, let's start paragraph 1 of our English-only article. I'll try to speak slower today, and don't be afraid to stop and listen again to help you understand. Get your highlighters and your pens to take lots of notes. Our first sentence says, nearly 250 years ago, in 1774, scientists predicted that some planets and the moon would appear in the same part of the sky on a night in May.
Yeah, I think that happens in a lot of cultures, right? In the past, people kind of like, they observed something and they say something bad's going to happen, right?
Yeah, so people want to know the future. We want to know if something bad is coming so we can prepare. And people in history look for meanings in many places. Chinese culture, you have the bird, look in the bird guts. everybody kind of looks at the stars. If you can guess when something will happen, then maybe you know other things in the future. And so people in history really love to guess about things in the sky.
Right.
And they can't go there, so like you have to guess, right?
Right. And speaking of guess, we also have the word here, predict.
That's right.
So predict means basically you say something's going to happen in the future, but you don't know for certain, you're just predicting.
You literally are saying the Latin word here. P-R-E means before, and dict is like dictionary, D-I-C-T.
Okay.
So a dictionary tells you what words mean. So you say what will happen before it happens. You predict it. Let's go to our next sentence. A Dutch preacher claimed that the rare event would lead to the destruction of the earth. Dun, dun, dun.
Sounds pretty terrible, but that also happens a lot in history. And who is a preacher?
So a preacher is like a religious leader. They don't always lead a church, but they like to talk about religious things. Maybe it's Christian, maybe it's Buddhist, but they always talk about religion. That's their job.
And I think in the past, they were also more knowledgeable, right? Compared with other people, the public.
That's right.
Yeah, so they're saying things, predicting things. Yeah.
These were people in the past, most people couldn't read, but preachers generally needed to read because they had to read the Bible. Bibles, the Christian book, was only in Latin, so you had to take Latin classes. And they also usually went to school for math and some other things. They had much more education than other people. They understood math, they understood languages, and they could read. Most people, you just had to listen to them. You had to trust what they were saying. So this guy thought not just that the planets would like line up in the same place. They thought, like, this preacher thought that all the planets are in like one circle around the Earth. And so they would all meet and just like boom, 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 like you're playing pool or something.
Yeah, they didn't know all the planets. They were actually quite far from each other.
Well, this dummy didn't. People definitely knew there were rings around space. Like that was Galileo's whole bag, right?
Okay.
So there were a lot of scientists that understood it, but this guy was popular for some reason, and he was like the loudest dummy around, and so everybody was like, "Oh my god!" And so everybody listened to this loud guy that didn't know what he's talking about. So let's continue. Naturally, this end of the world prediction, there's our noun from sentence 1, prediction caused panic among people.
Panic sort of means like you're nervous about something. Yeah, you're kind of, freaked out about something. And here we have end of the world. Here it's used as an adjective. So basically you put it together with a hyphen in between to make it an adjective.
There are a lot of words in English, a lot of ways to talk about the end of the world because people like to think about it. For a lot of Christians, talking about the end of the world was a good thing. Jesus would come back at the end of the world and save everybody. Like we think, a lot of people think when you die in Christian faith, you go right to heaven. That's not true. In the Bible, you die and then you wait for Jesus to come back and then Jesus takes you to heaven. So Christians for a long time really wanted the end of the world because Jesus was saving everybody.
Oh, really?
That's right.
New. Yeah.
That's right. So people misunderstand the real historical reason why everybody was so excited for the end of the world. Like, yeah, we'll all die, but when the end of the world happens and everyone dies, then Jesus comes and everyone can go to heaven. Right now, everyone's just waiting.
So it's a little bit like salvation back in the past, like you were saved, redeemed in some sort of way.
Yeah, people wanted the end of the world. They were like, oh, sweet, the end of the world is coming. Now, some people, if they weren't sure, is heaven real? Is heaven not real? They're not excited for the end of the world. But this preacher preaches about religion. This person is excited for the end of the world. Yo, everybody, this is going to be great.
So listen out. He's kind of like excited about the whole thing.
That's right. He's ready to have a party. He's ready. Let's go, everybody. So panic is uncontrolled fear, just like Betty. So you're not thinking. You're afraid and you're not thinking. So you're making bad choices. Let's continue to our next sentence. Luckily, a 30-year-old wool comber living in the town of Franeker was there to put everyone at ease.
Right. So this is actually quite fun. Wool comber. What kind of job is that?
Okay, so everybody has, we all know what wool is. It's the fur from a sheep, and it's very curly. And sheep are kind of dirty, and so lots of things get in their fur. A wool comber's job was to comb the wool and clean it out and make it straight so you can make it into yarn or string so you can make it into clothes. This guy just combed yarn all day.
So that means probably people normally wouldn't think that he would, be able to create a planetarium, right?
That's right. This is our unlikely hero. Here's a guy combing wool all day, and he's like, this preacher, this educated man that knows science and Latin and can read and went to college probably, he's wrong. And who are you, right? So everybody wants to know who this big loudmouth is, telling everyone that the preacher is wrong. Now, we saw panic in the last sentence. Now we have at ease. At ease is the opposite of panic.
And we often say put somebody at ease. Use it with put, the verb.
That's right. Put somebody at ease, to be relaxed. All right, let's take a quick break. And when we come back, we're going to start paragraph 2. In paragraph 1, we talked about a preacher, a religious talker that said the end of the world is coming. Now, usually we think that's bad. This dude is like, oh, this is sweet. But we have a wool comber, and that says, no, this guy's not right. Let's learn more about him. Our first sentence begins, Eisinga, who had spent most of his life engaging in the production of wool, was an amateur lover of mathematics and astronomy.
Right. So this sentence, we get a little bit more information about this person. And here we have this had spent. And also, we have the past perfect tense. Yeah. And why is it used in past perfect instead of past simple? That's because it's showing, you get the background information. So this is about the background information. And it happens before the event we're talking about. So we're stating the sentence, writing the sentence in past perfect.
So Eisinga was what we call an autodidactic. This is a very fancy word. Don't worry about this too much. Autodidactic are people that can learn by themselves. Everybody can learn a little bit by themselves, like just by doing things. But this is a person that really loved to learn things. He was really special, and he wasn't a nobody. Yeah, he's a wool comber, but he was also really smart. But the problem was he was a wool comber. That means his dad was poor. He could not go to school. He could not pay for teachers. He was extremely good at math and science. And unfortunately, because he did not have money, he couldn't go to university or college. But he loved learning, and he would just do it himself.
I remember it says he quit school at the age of 12.
Yeah.
So basically,
most people didn't go to school longer than like 12 years old. That's a pretty normal age. If anything, for him, 12 years old is pretty far. Like first grade, second grade would be the most education like a farmer's boy would have.
Right. And here we have this word engaging in something. That means getting involved in something. Or sometimes when we use engage, engaging or engaged in its adjective form, if something is engaging, that means it's interesting. It draws you in. If you get engaged in a class, that means you get involved. You concentrate on your lesson in class.
And if you engage a person, that means you want to marry them. So we are engaged. That means these two people want to get married. We saw this word amateur in our title. Remember, amateur means this person is not a professional. Or it also means this person is without skill. But we know this guy is really smart. This is the not a professional, meaning not they don't have skill. Let's continue. He had studied these subjects as a youth, even though he couldn't attend school.
Yeah, so youth here just means a young guy, basically youth. Sometimes we use it in more of an abstract sense. That means youth, right? Eternal youth. Some people, they seek eternal youth, perhaps Peter Pan. Some people, fictional characters.
Yeah, so there's also something when people first went to North America, they thought they could find the fountain of youth. And the Fountain of Youth was like, a fountain is where you can get some water from at like at a park, right? Your dog park or whatever. That's a fountain. The Fountain of Youth has magical water that makes you young forever. And people really thought it was in Florida in the United States. They were like, dude, it's Florida. It's not Florida. All right, let's continue to our next sentence. Through self-education, he was able to continue his studies as he got older.
Right. So basically, he teach himself and he was able to learn very well. And here, continue his studies. We don't say continue his study. We say studies in plural.
That's right. That's a great point. Highlight that so we don't forget it. Have you ever taught yourself something like you just really wanted to learn it?
Not really.
Not really. You like traditional.
I like going to school so that they teach me all the tips and tricks.
This is a good point because I really enjoy learning a lot of things myself. I grew up poor, a little bit like him. We didn't have money for teachers, but I wanted to learn guitar. I wanted to learn Chinese. I wanted to do all these things. But I will say I can learn all these things, but I could never become an expert because I didn't have a knowledgeable teacher to help me grow and become. But that's fine because I love learning lots of little things, right?
Yeah, so I
some
think
people
that's good.
like this.
Yeah, that's good because you get extensive knowledge about things and kind of, be able to chat with people very well.
Well, in English, this is called a mile wide and an inch deep. It's a little bit rude, actually.
We
It's
also
like,
have that expression in Chinese.
Yeah, I'm very much that. Let's take a quick break. When we come back, we got paragraph 3. All right, friends, welcome back to Enjoy English School. We're on pages 26 and 27. We're learning about Eisinger's Planetarium. And in paragraph 3, we'll actually learn about the planetarium now. And it's really, really special. This is our English-only article, so don't forget to listen again if you need it. Paragraph 3 begins, to prove that there was no reason for panic, Eisinger decided to build a scale model of the solar system.
I think here you can see kind of he was determined to do that. You don't really go to great lengths just to prove someone was wrong.
Yeah, like a crazy person, like you like give your whole life to proving this teacher wrong. This was a guy that really loved studying the sky, astronomy. When we prove something, we show people with evidence and take a look. There was no reason. No reason is negative, but look at the be verb. It's positive. Pick up your blue pen. Was, write a plus. No, write a negative. Don't say wasn't, no reason. That's wrong. When we build a scale model, that means this is a copy of a thing. It's usually bigger, or usually smaller than the real thing, but sometimes they're bigger. In science class, you might build a scale model of like a germ or a cell, right?
Yeah, and it's often in proportion, right?
So it's like the same. If you keep growing it, it will be correct size. Usually that's what it means. Let's continue. The solar system, that's our star, the sun, and all the planets. That's called the solar system. Let's continue. However, it took him 7 years from 1774 to 1781 to build the model into the ceiling of his house. Oh, sure.
That actually, I feel that it's quite impressive because only 7 years back in the time when you didn't really have a lot of modern conveniences. It only took him 7 years.
So I want you to think about someone building something in your house for 7 years. This was not a rich man. He didn't have a big house. So while he was building his planetarium, his wife and 6 children lived in the kitchen. They couldn't use the house because crazy dad is building a planetarium for 7 years.
Yeah, in the living room, right?
In the living room. Like, Dad, what are you doing? I'm building a planetarium. Can I sleep in the living room? No.
Right, so that sounds, that's a bit funny if you look at it now.
That's crazy. So he had to make 10,000 nails. He made his own nails. He had to make 10,000 of them. This man loved this topic. Just a crazy person. All right. Impressed by his work, William I, King of the Netherlands, bought the house and made it a royal planetarium.
Right. So actually, his work was admired at that time, unlike many artists, right? Back then, probably their paintings, their artworks weren't that famous when they were alive. But this guy is different because the king bought his house, right?
That's right. So when something is royal, the Royal Planetarium, that means the quality is good enough for a king or a queen. The biggest bed you can buy is called a royal bed, like king-size bed, royal king. It's a huge bed, like 10 people can sleep on it. Look at William, and then we have one. You have it looks like the letter I. We read this William the first. You don't see the, you have to say it. Please write the.
What about the word impressed? Here we know it's in past participle because that means William the First was impressed by his work. So we use past participle. But what about this word, the definition of it?
Okay, ready? Mean, wow! That's what impressed means. People saw it and they're like, wow! That's impressed. They really thought this was special. So the king saw this and thought, this is pretty cool, so let me buy the house. And Eisinga didn't tell the king no, but he did say, you can buy my house, but I still get to live here. Why? Because he wanted to keep teaching people about his planetarium. I love this guy's energy for the topic.
And commitment.
He loves talking about his planetarium. He really loves it.
Right. You can imagine because he spent 7 years building it. So of course he's going to have that sort of attachment to his own work.
It's his baby, right? Think his kids were 7 years older by the time he finished. I don't know how old his army of children were, but I do know they grow a lot in 7 years. And so some left the house and got families and jobs.
Or some of them still lived in the kitchen.
And they're all growing up now. So let's continue. More than 200 years later, the Eisinga Planetarium still works, making it the oldest functional planetarium in the world.
That's super amazing because functional, that means it's still working. Can you imagine something that was built 200, 250 years ago? It's still working today.
That's right. And there are a lot of really interesting facts about the planetarium. Let's share a few really quickly. So the planetarium is 1/1 trillionth scale. 1 trillion means 1 trillion. I can't tell you the Chinese, but it means 1 plus 12 zeros. And then we add a because it's like the ordinal number. 1/1 trillionth scale. That means 1 millimeter is 1 million kilometers in the scale model. It's crazy.
And you also have to do the math while you work on it, right?
That's right. Remember, he was really good at math and he was really good at astronomy. He wanted this to be correct, to show the preacher that all the planets were not going to hit each other. They were in their own rings. Now, what are some of the planets we'll see? Well, we see the sun, we see Mercury and Venus, that's 1 and 2. We see Earth, Mars, that's the red planet. Then we see Jupiter, that's the wood star in Chinese, the biggest one. And then we see Saturn, they have the rings, but no other planets.
Because they wasn't discovered at that time.
They had not been discovered that. So you can only see to Saturn.
They also joked about it. If they had found other planets by the time he was working on it, he would run out of space in his living room.
That's exactly what I thought. I did not personally read this, but if there were more planets, where would he put Neptune, Uranus, and Pluto? Where would they go? His house would either have to be bigger or the scale would be smaller, and you couldn't see anything.
Yeah.
Crazy. All right, let's continue here. In 2023, it became a UNESCO World Heritage Site, which ensures its proper protection and the continuation of its educational value in the future.
It's definitely somewhere I would like to visit if I go to Netherlands, because that sounds pretty fun. It's like a small house, it's not big, and
it looks nice too, doesn't it?
Yeah, it looks cozy. And when you enter, you'll see the ceiling. I think it's in blue. I think so.
I think so. Yeah, they don't do a night sky. I'm not really sure about that. But yeah, you can go and it looks beautiful. A heritage site means this place has a special historical value. And when we ensure, that means we make sure for the future. So hopefully people will get to enjoy the working, functional planetarium for many, many more years to come. So that was our Enjoy English, English only article. Tell us what you think. Give us some comments. What can we do better? I'm always happy to read them. For Enjoy English School, I'm Chris Gorski.
I'm Betty.
We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.